Don't listen to men's rights activists if you want to know what they have to say.
Don't listen to men's rights activists if you want to know what they have to say. Don't listen to men's rights activists if you want to know what they have to say.
I'll do it.
You just do it.
All right. Welcome to another edition of Breaking Badger News. This breaking being about 3 days old. So 3 days, it was a slow break, but it is still a break. I am your host, Brian.
I am Lindsay.
That's right, and this is a special version. We might do it this way. I don't know. Depends on audience feedback, but basically we got some positive responses for the shows that we did when we were in the UK and like sort of hanging out in an outdoorsy location, undisclosed. So we're doing another one. This one is from these very secret, super secret backyard of our lair, or my lair rather.
It's not my lair?
No. We're going to be talking about the news of the week. I got like 3 short stories we'll have some commentary on, okay? So, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. First, Alex Jones's conditioning is broken.
God almighty. Folks, we gotta get good people to stand up against these people.
If you don't already know, Alex Jones and InfoWars have been removed from several internet platforms, such as Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, MailChimp, LinkedIn, Discuss, which is a Discuss with a Q, you know, they do like the comment sections of various platforms, and other platforms. Oddly enough, other InfoWars channels such as Millennial Millie and Paul Joseph Watson, they remain free to sort of continue to make content there. The reasons for this are supposed to come from Alex Jones's calls for violence against children, as well as other sort of anti-Semitic remarks that he supposedly made. I am not entirely sure about the validity of those claims. I know that he essentially plays a character online, and there are other people who, let's say, they do worse and they still have platforms. Is this collusion? I think it should be obvious. It seems to me that it definitely is, and Alex is being targeted. No matter what you guys think about Alex Jones's content, no matter about what you think about him as a person, this should scare you and worry you. Just think of it this way. All of these tech companies, at least most of them, if not all, they're all coming from the same place. They're all coming from Silicon Valley. They all share a very similar ideology. And for those who are there that don't have that ideology, they're probably, sort of coerced to keep that secret so they can keep a job. Remember James Damore, who worked for Google? He didn't even necessarily disagree with their politics. He just had a different approach to solving a problem. And what happened to him, right? Other places that still have platforms where Alex Jones doesn't are groups such as Antifa, the Jihadis, the Young Turks. They still have platforms. So why Alex Jones? I'm going to ask you, why do you think? Honestly. Have you thought about that?
Because he's an easy target, I think. He has... Oh my god, Jojo is digging. He has a lot. Like, he has a big following, and he's kind of a fringe conspiracy theorist, so I think that even though he has a lot of followers, they might not be as concerned as other.
Stop. Go ahead.
Why do you think?
I think you're onto it. I think it's because, he's easy. He's like this person that people can dismiss as a kook. He's just some crazy conspiracy theorist. He's just like really, really out there. It's like Tim Pool was saying, right? He's like the precipice of the cliff, like the tips that fall. And so people don't find it surprising that people might consider his channel like there is plenty of people, right, on both sides of the political fence that probably would think that the loss of Alex Jones and InfoWars is no big deal. So that one would like be allowed to slip. But I think that's how you can justify other people getting the bans too. And make no mistake, this is clearly collusion. Like, I mean, everyone did it within 48 hours. And it's sort of had a snowball effect. Like, more people have sort of jumped on the bandwagon, like LinkedIn and what's the MailChimp, the email aggregate service. I mean, why? Why LinkedIn? Like, he doesn't even make content on there. So it's not like it's violating some community standard, right? It's just a profile page that you put your business. That should tell you something. This is clearly a coordinated effort, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that by doing that, I think there's also a political reason too. I mean, outside of simply they don't like him, I think that because we got elections coming up in November, and Alex was actually, it's hard to say how much of an influence, but some might say that he had a pretty big influence on the last American election. So, because he actually had Trump on his program, and he was pretty pro-Trump for a while, or at least for the entire time, at least as soon as he knew about him. So I'd guess that, by getting rid of him, he can't influence future elections. I think that's really what it comes down to. They're just eliminating their political enemies. And YouTube is the way to do it. I mean, not YouTube, but using big tech companies can do that. Another thing that I thought, I would put out there, people have been talking about using internet platforms as though they are utilities, so that people can't be denied service for unconstitutional things. What do you think about that? Do you think that internet platforms should be treated like utilities, like electricity and gas and stuff?
I've thought about it for a long time, but I actually haven't come to any conclusions on that. Like, I don't really have a strong feeling either way. Like, I get both arguments. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Part of me, like my sort of free market side worries a bit. The free market side of me worries about, I guess, creating these limits. But then on the other hand, I think there's a better argument to be made about, and I think it was the one that Ted Cruz made when he was sort of grilling Zuckerberg, whether this is a platform or it is let's say a space for people for the company to voice its opinions. So it's either free for everyone, or it's something that specifically represents Facebook's views. And I think that's another way to look at it. And one of our patrons made an interesting point. They said, tech giants acting like publishers instead of platforms violate the rules for their safe harbor provision protections. So what is that? A safe harbor is a provision in a law or regulation that affords protection from liability or penalty under specific situations, or if certain conditions are met. Sometimes a safe harbor reduces liability if good faith is demonstrated. Here's a simple example of a safe harbor law. A state law requires landowners to report the size of their property, but the landowner is not penalized if he or she relied in good faith on a faulty measuring tool or a third-party surveyor. So, just some things to think about. I guess at the end of the day, tell us what you think about this situation. Do you think this is collusion or coincidence? Do you think that there is anything that we can do to hopefully change things? Another thing that I think it was Sticks and Hammer proposed was like a internet bill of rights, or like something like that, right? An internet constitution. So do you have any thoughts on that idea? Like creating sort of like a...
That's probably not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. I worry about that because, what if this situation is created so that governments can then regulate the internet? I don't want that. right? So it's got to be, I'm trying to think about the freest option without involving the state. And that's my preference anyways. So I don't know, guys. Tell me what you think. If I got anything wrong, let me know. I apologize. There's a lot of info out there, and there's a lot of speculation out there, and but this is important because it affects us as well. I mean, if they were able to take down Alex Jones, who's got like millions of subs, then they can do that to anyone if they feel so inclined. If they decide that they're spewing hate speech, if they decide that they threaten people's lives, they will just remove you. And when it's all coming from the same part of the world, specifically the same part of the country, the same part of California, and everyone shares a similar worldview that they don't just believe is simply a perspective, but is rather the pragmatic way of seeing the world and the pragmatic way in which to act on said world, well then, you should be concerned. I mean, we are. I know I am a bit. So anyway, let us know what you think about the story with Alex Jones. Count Dankula, his appeal was rejected. Count Dankula's appeal process has been rejected on 2 out of 2 chances. So in Scottish courts, or Scottish law, I guess you can appeal twice. And he did twice, and he was rejected twice. So 2 out of 2 chances, he had to appeal the verdict that was levied against him regarding the fine of £800 that he received for making grossly offensive content in the form of training his pug, Buddha, to perform a Nazi salute. Dankula says he will make the relevant appeal documents public as soon as he receives the second document. In the video he made on the subject, he shares a paragraph from the first appeal rejection, which says some crazy things. Here's an example, and he hasn't received the second one yet. That's coming later, but he will make that available as soon as it comes out. But this is a quote from the first one, okay? It says, quote, "This was a deeply unpleasant offense in which disgraceful and utterly offensive material was very widely distributed by the appellant. This was to the considerable distress of the community in question, and, just as disturbingly, to the apparent approval of a large number of persons who appear to share the appellant's racist views."
Racist.
The guy who wrote this even said that Dankula's lawyer should be held in contempt of court for doing his job defending Count Dankula in court. Like, the lawyer should get in trouble.
So that's weird. So he's saying the people that support him, that aren't offended, are the problem too?
Yeah, they're sharing in his racist...
So not being offended is a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. People who are free speech advocates, people who are not offended by the pug doing a Nazi salute. Remember, let's think about what this is all over, okay? This is what this is about. They are also sharing his racist views, according to this person who wrote the rejection letter.
Or maybe they're just not offended, and that kind of disproves that it's just widely, grossly offensive.
Or maybe they're racist.
Yeah, I guess that must be it.
That must be it. Dankula's appeals were rejected without him even getting so much as a hearing. So normally when you do an appeal, you get to put forward your sort of like, you make your case for why you should get the appeal. It's like a letter, right? But we're thinking about doing an appeal for our court results, and Karen is going to write up a letter, and then that will be part of the appeal. So basically it's you submit the letter of appeal along with like sort of resubmitting all the evidence and the transcripts from the court hearing and everything. Dankula didn't even get to do that. They rejected him before he could even make his argument. So this was like, he's being railroaded into this fine. Dankula has stated he is not going to pay the fine, and he's prepared to go to prison in the name of his principles. As Dankula said, it should not be a criminal offense to hurt somebody's feelings. Dankula is certain he is going to prison, but seems cheery about it. Or at least that's, he's just a cheery guy anyway. The fact is, he's actually concerned about going to prison, but he says he's willing to do it because he strongly believes in freedom of speech and believes this is a gross injustice and he shouldn't have to pay the £800 fine, even though he actually had the money to do it. So it's not about money. He got a whole bunch of donation money, and he said, on principle, I'm not paying this fine. Lastly, he requested from his listeners that they please, please, please do not send harassing messages or hound any of his political opponents, or sort of judicial opponents, I guess it were, as it only serves to give them ammunition to use against him and against free speech in general. Finally, he hopes to be out of prison before his wedding and says, let's do this. But he doesn't know. He knows he's going to prison. He's not looking forward to it. And it's probably going to take a miracle to sort of save him from it. But this is what he's prepared to do. That's manly as fuck, if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't it?
I stand with Dank.
Yes, I too am Dankula. Ironically, at the end of his video, there's he puts a clip of Alex Jones saying, his name is Count Dankula, subscribe to his channel.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.
It's kindred spirits. I don't know what else to say. All right, so last story. Muslim man trains kids for war. A man arrested at a makeshift compound in New Mexico, where 11 children and the remains of one boy were found, was training one of the children to commit school shootings, court documents alleged on Wednesday. Documents filed in the 8th District Court in Taos County quoted the foster parent of one of the 11 children as having told investigators that Siraj Ibn Wahaj, the father of a missing Georgia boy, was conducting weapons training at the squalid compound in the northern part of the state. By the way, the name, it sounds Asian to me, so we're going to go with Asian. Wahaj says, I had trained the foster parent's child in the use of an assault rifle in preparation for future school shootings, according to the document, which argues that Wahaj should be held without bond. He entered no plea during an initial hearing on Wednesday, and a bond hearing is pending. The allegation was first reported by the Associated Press. Authorities discovered the compound in Amalia on Friday during a search for Wahaj's son, a 3-year-old who went missing 8 months ago in Jonesboro, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. Wahaj was the prime suspect. Once there, they came across Wahaj, 4 other adults, and 11 hungry children ages 1 to 15, but they didn't find his son. By the way, these children, almost all boys, if not all boys. I believe they were all boys. They're just calling them children, but come on, guys. When investigators returned to the property on Monday, they found remains of a boy, 4 years old. A positive identification is still pending, but officials believe that they are those of Wahaj's son, Abdul Ghani. The child's 4th birthday was the same day that the remains were discovered. They found him on his birthday. Authorities said that Wahaj had multiple firearms, including an assault rifle, and that they believed the shooting range was on the property. They arrested the adults and charged them with 11 counts of child abuse. Seems kind of mild to me. Wahaj was also charged with interfering with the parents' custodial rights. The death of the unidentified boy remains under investigation and was not included in the charges. The allegation in court documents that Wahaj was training a child to commit school shootings is another bizarre twist in the case. Wahaj is accused of having left Georgia in December with Abdul Ghani. The boy's mother told police that Wahaj wanted to perform an exorcism on him because he thought the boy was possessed by the devil. He took the boy to a park but never returned, the woman said, according to an extradition warrant. Abdul Ghani struggled with seizures and hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, a birth defect caused by a lack of oxygen and blood flow, and he could not walk, the warrant said. This is nuts. I just found this out today, Wednesday, so in case you're seeing this tomorrow. And I tell you, I was surprised. There was a man who was, there were several people, Islamists basically, training children as young as 1 year old for school shootings, to go to schools to shoot up the schools. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. They were all starving.
Yeah, they were malnourished. They were wearing rags when they found them. We're talking about it was all boys, and I don't know. I wonder how the media is going to spin this one, to be honest. Now that I think about it.
They might not report it.
Yeah, I mean, there were some reports, like this one was on NBC, but I don't think that you're going to see it like on a 24-hour news cycle or anything like CNN. They may give it a mention, but somehow I think this is gonna disappear into the memory hole, because we're talking inconvenient, right? Talk about separating kids from their parents in New Mexico. That's a spicy meatball. So we'll see what happens. If I learn more information, I will follow up either on an HBR news show or another one of these. But that's basically what's going on. Let us know what your thoughts are about all three of these stories. I appreciate you guys coming out, and we'll see you guys next time.